Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to build in the world of Myshuno, which is the world that we got from the expansion pack The Sims 4 City Living, and I'm going to be recreating 2 apartments from a TV show called Friends and doing it using custom content. So this dot ends up having 2 apartments, like I just said. We have Monica and Rachel's apartment over here, which this is the one that I'm starting on. This ends up having 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, but later on you'll see I'll come in and I'll make a little hallway, and then across the hallway I then make the second apartment, which again is 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, but that one is for Joey and Chandler. So this week pretty much I recently got my hands on a new CC set by Hero Sim called the Roomies Collection, which is basically the Friends kitchen set put into The Sims 4, and ever since I saw that Hero Sim was coming up with this set, I have just been so desperately wanting to sit down and just recreate these kind of iconic apartments in the game, and I'm just so happy with this build and the way it turned out. I did so much research for this. Like, I was watching so many different episodes, going on YouTube to find certain scenes for certain angles of the apartment, and like this past week I've been in full Friends mode, and so yeah, I really hope you like it. But anyway, moving on from that and getting on and talking a little bit more about the build itself and also what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I've done the main bulk of the floor plan. I'm just coming in now and figuring out what different like wallpaper and flooring I was going to go for. Something that I wanted to point out though, because I'm currently doing the bathroom. In the bathroom, I have found multiple different scenes where like the flooring changes. It's honestly, it was quite hard doing this build, because the thing is, where Friends the TV show is so long, like I think there's like 10 seasons or something like that, it kind of changes and the apartments kind of evolve over time. But yeah, something that I wanted to point out, when I was first doing the wallpaper and the flooring in the bathroom, I chose a all white tile bathroom tile, but then I got another angle or like another scene and it was a black and white checkered. So in the end I went for a black and white checkered. But yeah, I've pretty much done the main floor plan now, and I'm already coming in and starting doing the entrance into the apartment. Now, something that I wanted to mention quite early on, through this apartment I'm going to be showing you multiple different pictures of, you know, what the space looks like or what I was referencing when I was building it. So if you're someone that has never seen the TV show Friends, don't worry, you're not going to have watched it to have seen, you know, what the apartment looks like, because I'm gonna try and find all these different photos. I say find, I've got multiple different folders on my computer. I've got one labelled Monica and Rachel's apartment, and the second one Joey and Chandler's, and then I've also got their floor plan, and I'll show you everything, so don't worry about that. But yeah, I started off by the initial entrance hallway, which of course I had to use the iconic purple door with the little like yellow, I was about to say window frame. It's not a window frame, is it? What is it? Photo frame around the keyhole. Now, that is from the Roomies collection by Hero Sim, alongside with the majority of the items that I've already placed down into this kitchen. Now, whilst I'm just fiddling about with like the curtains and the blinds and pretty much the object placement, I do just want to quickly show you the floor plan for Monica and Rachel's apartment. This is basically what I was referencing when I came in, and yeah, figured out almost like the layout of this one. Now, it's actually kind of funny because when you actually zoom out and you actually look at the apartment floor plan, it really makes absolutely no sense, because Monica and Rachel, they live in New York, they live across the hall from Joey and Chandler, which, like I said, we'll decorate their apartment later on, but the actual shape of their apartment makes no sense whatsoever if you actually was to find a picture of what the supposed building they live in looks like, because they live in this pretty much like rectangular building in New York, and underneath there is Cafe Perk, and you know, it's like a little coffee shop and stuff. But it's just so bizarre because I've never really deeped it. Like, they pretty much live in a big rectangle, but if you want to try and recreate it in The Sims, for example, there is so many different like diagonal walls and bump outs and like weird placements of windows and stuff. It doesn't really make any sense, and it wasn't really until I sat down and I did this build that I actually deeped how much of a strange floor plan this one was. And I mean, of course I could have maybe incorrectly done the floor plan, but I used this reference image when I was building it, and I tried to be as precise and as like accurate as what I could possible, not only with the floor plan but for pretty much every single space in this apartment, which is actually one of the reasons why I think this must be one of the most challenging builds I've ever done, because like I've already said, like coming into this build, I would find a picture of something in a certain scene from a certain episode, and then I'll try and get another angle, like a closer up, you know, because I'm thinking, okay, well, what's that over there? I want to see clearly what that object is so I can put it into the game, and then I find another image, but then something else has changed. So it was very difficult doing this apartment, but yeah, I tried to be as precise and as accurate as what I could possible. And so if you're a really big, you know, Friends fan and you love this TV show, I really hope that I have done this apartment justice. I was also thinking, if you are just like a proper hardcore Friends fan, it just would be really fun to try and recreate it in the game. And so that's part of the reason why I then decided, after I finished this first apartment, to come in and build Joey and Chandler's apartment just across the hall. So if you wanted to, you could literally go into your game, you could create Monica, Rachel, Phoebe, Ross, Chandler, Joey. You could create all of them. You could even create other like side characters and boyfriends and stuff like that, and you could play it out in the game, which I just think is so much fun. And I like this build for that potential gameplay possibility if you wanted to. But either way, getting back to actually talking about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I figured out where all the kitchen counters go. I've started coming in and doing some light cluttering in the kitchen, but currently I'm just focusing on kind of like this little ledge over here, which eventually ends up being partly across the oven and then partly across some open shelving. Now, if I haven't already, I will find a picture of what Monica's kitchen looks like on the screen and pop it up so you can kind of get a general gist of what I was trying to recreate in the game. Her kitchen has got these blue kitchen cabinets with almost like an oak wood like countertop piece. Her oven is located on the left hand side and then her fridge is on the right hand side, but above her like main kitchen area, if you want to put it that way, she has these really big open shelves. And so you can see I come in and I've only done one layer of the clustering. You'll see in a second I proper go to town and I've really cluttered that up, but she has these open shelves and then she has like these hanging pans on the wall. But then something else which I wanted to point out, which I was really stuck on what to go for, and so I kind of found a bit of a middle ground. You see where I placed down that little bedside lamp? Well, above that lamp, it actually changes at multiple different times in the show in terms of the decorations above it. In some scenes, you can see two decorative wall plates, or like plates hanging on the wall above that little area. But then I found another angle of the kitchen, and instead of the two plates on the wall, it appears to be three little photo frames of, to me, it looks like fruit potentially, or maybe vegetables or something. And so I decided to go with the three little photos, as you can kind of see. And then instead of having the plates there, I then moved objects, a single plate onto the side of one of the open shelving units, which I was again a little bit questionable whether I should do this or not, because in some scenes on the side of them cabinets there is nothing, like there is literally just blank wood. But then in other scenes it appears that there is, I think it's meant to be like a photograph or some sort of mask or something, I'm not too sure. But then in another scene there's two plates on the side of the kitchen cabinets. It's just a really good example of how over time this apartment just changes so much throughout the show, and that's why it was just so difficult trying to recreate it. But I just kind of found a middle ground, and I placed down three photo frames above the bedside lamp, and then I placed down one singular plate on the side of the open shelves. Although I think before I come into my game and pop it onto the gallery, I might add a second plate, just because I feel like the one single plate looks a little bit lonely. But either way, besides the point, getting back to actually talking about what I'm doing, as you can see, I've now come in and properly cluttered up the open shelves. Now, the way to me it kind of looks like Monica's kind of displayed all the different areas of these shelves is the bottom level seems to be more so like spices and a few different cereal boxes, alongside with the very right hand side having hanging mugs and then plates. And then as you go up, there is some more cereal boxes and some jams and stuff, and then the very top levels more so seems to be like fine china and like fancy pottery, basically. One thing I will say though is there's not as many shelves in the kitchen hanging on the wall as what it appears to be in the show. But to be fair, I don't actually think it's the the worst thing in the world, because pretty much the Roomies collection by Piri Sim, who is the creator of this Friends CC collection, which pretty much inspired this whole entire build, they made the kitchen counters, they made a fridge, they made a few different like bits and bobs of like clutter and stuff, but then they also made the shelf units that go on the wall that kind of pair nicely with the kitchen cabinets. In the ones that they made, there is only 3 tiers or like 3 levels of shelves, whereas if you get a really zoomed out image of the kitchen in the show, it appears to be 4 levels. But to be honest, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Like, you never really see the very 4th shelf apart from this one scene which I'll pop onto the screen. You see it there, but for the most part the rest of the kitchen I reckon is quite accurate to what you see in the show. But over here by the side of the fridge, there is kind of like this little table, and this is where Monica's microwave is. Now, I will say, I haven't playtested this apartment yet. I'm going to do it as soon as I finish this voiceover, but I know that this microwave I end up placing down, it's not going to be functional purely because I placed it onto a counter and then moved objects to the counter into the floor, so then the microwave could be on the side table. Just purely because I know how the game works, that's not going to be functional. But it was kind of one of them things where I wanted to place down the microwave next to the fridge in that little tiny nook because that's how it looks in the show. And so, yeah, I do want to say, I don't think that is going to be user friendly, but I mean, at least it feels like it's Monica's apartment. And of course, if you wanted to, and you actually wanted to download this apartment and you wanted your Sims to play in it and you wanted to have a working microwave, you could definitely just replace that little side table and place down a little like corner like counterpiece and pop the microwave there instead, because I feel like there's enough space for it. But again, I was just trying to be as accurate as I could possible to the show. Whilst I am on the subject of playtesting though, if you watch me regularly, you know every single speed build that I make, I thoroughly playtest it before I pop the build onto the gallery, because I don't want you to download a build from me and then, you know, get your Sims to go to the toilet or, I don't know, sit at the dining room table and they can't sit down. I don't want you to have basically any issues when it comes around to playtesting. However, in the kitchen, I feel like a lot of the clutter that I place down onto the kitchen cabinets is going to make it so it's not going to be usable. I'm going to try it and see how we are, but then if it doesn't work, I'm going to maybe do a different trick of removing the clutter onto the kitchen by elevating it slightly, so technically the game won't register it to actually be on the kitchen cabinets or kitchen counters, and see if I can make it work that way. If not though, you might not have a usable kitchen, which is so unlike me. I mean, if you watch me regularly, you know how like just so particular I am with playtesting my builds. Like literally every single build that I do, I'll get a sim to it, test every mirror, sit on every single seat, go around both sides of the bed, use the kitchen, everything. But for this build, where it is a little bit of a different one and I'm trying to recreate something that you see in a TV show, yeah, the playability might not be up to my usual standard, and so I did just want to apologise for that, but I just tried to do my best. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just tried to recreate it in the game as accurate as I could. But either way, over here, as you can see, I just cluttered up this little like, it's almost like a ladder beam, and it's got like individual like books and a vase and a little lamp and stuff. But then next to it, there is also this little green side table, which again, over the duration of the show, the items on this table and in it as well kind of change and evolve over time. Above this little area, I was able to find the exact same painting that Monica has in her apartment in this space and find CC of it in the game and use it in this build, which it was a very quick area what I just decorated. But it's this picture of, I think it's a dog and a person, and it's in like this black frame, but the actual artwork itself is kind of like a goldy colour. I found custom content of it, and so of course I had to use it in this build. But then also the little side table, which like I said, that kind of like changes and it evolves over time. I also was able to find the exact same furniture of custom content in The Sims, and so of course I had to use that one. When it came around to actually decorating that little side table area, I was actually referencing a picture of, I believe it's meant to be Thanksgiving, so the picture that I was looking at had like pumpkins on and stuff, which is actually very appropriate for the time of the year that we're in right now. But I didn't decide to go down the pumpkin route because I wanted this apartment to be, you know, usable in all seasons of the year. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on into the lounge area. Now, when it came around to doing the floor plan for this particular little spot, I kind of decided to go down more of a practical route in terms of not follow the floor plan exactly, because I'll pop up a picture of what this little certain section looks like in Friends. Pretty much where the TV area is, we have like this TV cabinet and then a TV on the wall and then a painting above it, which you can see I have the exact same painting in the game. That is again a creation of a replica of Monica's apartment, so of course I had to use it. But in this little spot, it kind of seems to go a little bit into the wall, like it's not a completely flat wall like how I've got it, because this is the thing, in the game we've either got a one tile space or that's it. So I could have potentially have done kind of like the dip in the wall where the TV unit sits, but for it to be one full tile in The Sims 4 would have been way too big of a space to do it. And so instead I decided to, just have it be on a completely flat wall, and then, just have a little TV unit. We have a boxy TV, we have a plant. We've also got a VHS tape because, Friends was 90s, and so it just felt very appropriate. But then in terms of the sofa and the armchair, I believe both of them are from the same collection, and it is from Charlie Pancake's Lighthouse collection. These are not meant to be like replicas of the sofa and the armchair in this show. I couldn't actually find any CC of, like their exact sofa and their exact armchair. I do actually have both of the recliners, or like Monica and Rachel's, it's almost like a little armchair with a footstool. I do have CC of that, which I do pull out at one point and you will see, but I just wasn't loving the way that it was matching with the rest of the apartment, and so I decided to use something else. But I couldn't find actual pieces of their furniture in custom content, and so I kind of went down the route of just trying to find other pieces that I just already had in my collection and use them instead. But on the 3-seater sofa, as you can see, I placed down a really big red blanket. It's what it looks like in the show, and so I decided to do it. And then also I placed down one, it kind of looks like a bed pillow, like a bed pillow that you would sleep on, one of them on the left hand side, and then a little red pillow on the right hand side. In the show, that red pillow is actually orange, but I don't have any orange pillow, CC, believe it or not, and so I felt like red kind of went, especially with the blanket as well. It kind of, there was a little bit of symmetry there. But either side of the sofa there is a glass table on the left hand side, and then this tiny little like oak table, it looks very skinny, on the right hand side. And then also next to the armchair there also ends up being another table which is kind of like semicircular. I don't really have anything that looks like that in the game. I do actually have some CC that I downloaded to be an exact replica of that, but I just wasn't loving the way that it was looking, and so I didn't end up using it, because with all of my CC builds, if ever I do them, I like to go down the Maxis Match route, because me personally, when it comes around to custom content, I prefer Maxis Match over Alpha. No like hate to any Alpha, it's just, to me, if I'm downloading custom content, I want it to match with the art style in the game. It's just my own personal preference. But some of the different Friends CC that I downloaded was looking a little bit too alpha-y for my liking, and so I just decided to use things that kind of look like it in a way. But over here, as you can see, I'm now coming in and pretty much decorating kind of like the fourth wall, or I'm breaking the fourth wall if you want to put it that way, because where Friends is a TV show, it doesn't have 4 walls around the whole entire set. When Friends was filmed, from my understanding, there was a live audience watching it being filmed, and so they couldn't have 4 walls around it, because how's anyone going to see? And so you don't really ever see this side of the apartment in Friends. However, I was doing a little bit of digging and I found one particular episode, I believe it's the one where Chandler finds Monica's closet, which, if you know about Monica's closet, it's in this apartment. I also tried to recreate that, but there is this one scene where Chandler opens up this door which leads into Monica's closet, and you see her reaction from the other angle of the apartment. And over here, this is where we see this really tall, skinny, it's kind of like an oaky wood, and then also like red cabinet, and then also a little side table with a painting, and then some also yellow flowers. And I mean, I must admit, it does look quite bare and empty in comparison to the rest of the apartment, and so you will see I do decide to add in a bookcase on one side, and then also a few different paintings to kind of spruce it up a little bit, just because I felt like it was just so empty, and I had to imagine what would be on that very like left hand corner, which we do not see in this one scene. But I was able to find this one like episode where you actually do see what is meant to be normally like the filming angle for the majority of the show, and I tried to recreate it in the game. Also by the front door area, I kind of very briefly skipped over it, but I placed down this one painting, which I'll find the reference image that I was looking at. You can see it in this image where Chandler is walking in through the door. There is a little yellow table in front of it. However, I decided not to include the yellow table, and instead I placed down some like shelving area instead, just because I just thought it looked a little bit better in my opinion. But over here, as you can see, I'm pretty much revisiting the lounge section very quickly, because I realised in one of my reference images on the right hand side where the TV area is, there appears to be a little speaker, and it's kind of got like a little plant hanging off it, and so yeah, I revisited that area and did exactly that. But now moving on to kind of like the platform section, this is basically the big window in the apartment. Now throughout this whole entire apartment, this little spot up here was most definitely the most challenging and the most difficult for me to replicate in the game, because I'll find some images of what this space looks like, which, can I just say, trying to find like reference photos of this or trying to watch scenes where this little section is included, it's actually really hard, because you either get a really close up shot of, say for example, Rachel sitting on like this little ottoman, or you get a really zoomed out shot which is so dark you can't really see what's over here. But pretty much in the show there is this big window and then a little seating area, and in some scenes there appears to be a desk and an armchair, in other scenes there's just an armchair, in other scenes there's nothing and it's just like a seating area. And so in the end I decided to go for the ottoman with some seating alongside with the little armchair and the little desk, but trying to get this so it looks accurate to what it appears to be in Friends. Yeah, it was the most difficult spot in this whole entire apartment. Currently, the way that I've got it, the window section is 4 tiles wide by 1 tile kind of like dip, if you want to put it that way. Like there's like a little 1 tile dip where the ottoman ends up sitting, but I eventually change it so it ends up being 3 tiles by 1, and then I kind of like pull the wall out a little bit, because like I said, when I was doing this whole entire speed build, I was just looking at so many different reference images, but I got this one particular shot and I noticed that there's kind of like this little like semi-circle side table right by Monica's bedroom door, and there appears to be, I think it's meant to be like a speaker or something, and then also some artwork alongside with a wall light, and then these 2 little faces kind of like in this little section. I think there's also meant to be an outlet as well, and so you can see I placed down a little outlet in that bottom corner. But yeah, this little section, I just struggled so much trying to get it to be accurate in the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy with the end result, but yeah, I just really struggled with this one particular area. I also end up changing out the windows, which I'm not sure if you're going to love that, because basically the window that is currently on the screen, that is a recreation of Rachel and Monica's window in their apartment. Like someone has actually come in and made it in The Sims 4 and you can download it. So I downloaded that, and I thought initially that I was going to go for that for like this big window area of the apartment. But the thing is, with their window in the series, it kind of goes out at a bit of an angle, which is what this window basically does. But the thing is, as I was kind of like zooming out and I was looking at it, it was going out a little bit too much of an angle, which sounds really silly, but I was looking at this one particular close-up shot, which I'll pop onto the screen. It's kind of like a close-up of both the curtains and then also the desk area. But you can kind of see the little ottoman, which is meant to be below where the window sits. It's really not as deep as what it was with this window included. And so I thought, well, if I want to replicate it and have, you know, a few different pillows and stuff, we've got a little bit too much surface area to work with, and it's going to look a little bit too big for how it should be. And so, yeah, I do end up switching out that window. But in terms of the curtains, I came in and I downloaded some very particular curtains for this apartment. Now, in the actual show, Monica's got these white curtains that have got like purple and orange and blue flowers with a few different leaves on. They're very leery. I couldn't find the exact ones, but I mean, I feel like the ones that I've used, they're quite good going as like a inspired curtain. Now, through my research, if I can even call it that, but like I said, coming into this week, I've been in full-on Friends mode. Like, you should literally see my Google search images this past week, like looking at very particular spots in each of the apartments. But something that I noticed, which I've never noticed before through watching the show, but the curtains actually do change a little bit over time, because there's some scenes where you can see the curtains and you've got a left one and a right one, but then in the middle there's kind of like this yellowy blind kind of in between them. But then there's some other angles where you see both curtains, but then that kind of like yellowy blind is behind another angle of the curtain which kind of drapes down a little bit lower. I really struggled on knowing what to do with it, and so you'll see the way that I've kind of formatted the curtains at the minute. I've got the Larry curtains both on the left hand side and the right hand side, but then I've got another curtain piece which is from the estate set by Felix Andre. I basically sized it up, and I just wanted to use the blind portion, or kind of like the little frilly, it's not even frilly, like the little bit at the top, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to describe that, but the bit at the top, I wanted to use that bit, and so I basically sized them estate curtains up and then moved them into the curtain a little bit more, so you more so just see the top section of it. But then I just really just didn't like the way it was looking, and so in the end, yeah, I just ended up replacing it and just leaving it as is and just having it to be the single curtains. But you can see over here I placed down a little side table as a desk alongside with a little armchair. But now I'm moving over into the very back corner right by Monica's closet, and I'm currently coming in and decorating kind of like this little side table area. This is one of them spots in the apartment which I found really difficult trying to find a exact like close-up image or like an exact description of what is on this table. I do have this one photo which you can kind of just about see it in the corner, which I'll zoom the photo in so you don't have to struggle to see it. But on this photo there kind of seems to be a mixture of different photo frames in shapes on the wall, and I can just about make out there's some sort of like head sculpture or like body sculpture on the actual center console table, and then I think there's a few different plants and photo frames around it. But something I do want to also say is in this reference image which I'm showing you, you know on the fourth wall which I broke and I showed you that one angle of Monica seeing Chandler in her little secret closet which I've now moved over into, that little red like tall skinny cabinet which is on the fourth wall, in this image it's over here. So do you see what I mean? Like the apartment just changes over time. But besides the point, moving over, like I just said, I'm currently coming in and decorating Monica's closet. So in here, it's a tip. I'll show you my reference image that I was sticking at, but if you see in this reference photo, there appears to be a globe in here, some sort of like tall standing lamp, and then also I know from just watching season 1 of Friends that at some point you can just about notice in the back corners of Monica's apartment when she's kind of like walking around, it was actually organised in, I believe, the earlier seasons. I'm not sure when it decided to become a bit of a dumping ground. There's a bit of a tip in there, but yeah, in Monica's closet, I just basically went in there, I put some clothes at the back, and then just basically went to town and placed down, like I said, the lamp, the globe, random boxes, shoe boxes, bags, stuff, basically. But now I've moved over into Monica's and Rachel's bathroom. So like I said, initially when I was doing the wallpapering and the flooring for this one particular room, I used a all white like tile on the floor, but then when I came in, I then decided to change it to be a checker print, purely because when I was doing the little kitchen area and I was focusing on, you know, the little table that I was talking about with the picture of a man and a dog above it, when I was looking at that picture, I then noticed that in the back corner, the bathroom door's open, and you can see that the tile had then changed to black and white. Now, I believe pretty much in like the later seasons, Monica gets her bathroom redone by Joey, I think it was, and basically that's when it changes from an all white tile on the floor to then be black and white. But when I came in, I actually started decorating the bathroom purely off the rest of the way that I decorated the other spaces in the apartment. I just thought having the black and white checkered print would be a little bit more fun. The way that I tried to approach both this apartment and eventually Joey and Chandler's, I tried to come in with the approach of try and decorate it like the earlier seasons. So I mean, in this case the bathroom doesn't really make 100% like sense in terms of accuracy because this happens later on down the line, but I kind of just prefer the black and white checker print. I just think it looks really cool, to be honest with you, and it's very 90s and it's just very Monica and Rachel coded. But in here I'll pop a picture of the bathroom like clutter image that I was looking at when I was decorating this bathroom. You can clearly see Chandler in the bathtub with Monica sitting on the side, but then on the other side of the wall we have the toilet, we have a sink, we've got some towels hanging on the wall, we've also got some little shelves and a little photo frame. I also did debate changing the door at one point, which you might notice when I was doing, you know, like the big window section, I basically placed down a door over there which was a CC door which had a window on top, because in all of the doors in the apartment they're purple on the exterior, but then on the top of them they have a little window. So I changed the bathroom door at one point to be this CC like recolour of a base game door, which is purple with a window on top, but the purple wasn't matching the purple wallpaper, and the doors that I have for all of the different rooms, they are from the same CC set that the wallpaper came from, and so they kind of match seamlessly. And so then I decided to go back to the original door, and at one point I did try and place down a window on top of it, but I just, one, didn't have any purple windows, and two, have any purple windows that would fit above the door. And so yeah, I did decide to just leave it as it was. But either way, as you would have seen, I quickly decorated the balcony section, which was really hard to try and recreate because again, you don't really see the balcony in the show that much. However, I have now moved on into the next space, and this is Monica's room, which you do see this space a little bit more. So in here, to start it off, I will pop a little picture of what Monica's bedroom looks like. You can see that she's got this white rustic bed with a white and pink like floral bedding. I don't have that exact bedding in the game, but I mean, I feel like the pink and white checker print that I've gone for is kind of like the similar kind of vibe. However, I do have the exact same artwork. So if you look above her bed, she's got this like framed piece which looks like 3 individual like paintings or posters combined into one frame, and I've got CC of that, and so of course I had to place that down. But either side of her bed, she's got 2 bedside tables. The one on the left hand side is like this little green rustic looking one with a little orange lamp, and the opposite side, it's kind of like this white like body of a bedside table, but then the top bit is kind of like an ochre colour. Surprisingly enough, I don't have any CC like that, and so I actually ended up using a piece of like in-game paid DLC, which the little bedside table that I went for, it's from the Cottage Living expansion pack. Typically when I do CC builds, I like to steer away from using like in-game paid DLC, purely because with custom content, a lot of it you don't need to have any like expansion packs or any kits, any stuff packs, or any pretty much DLC. A lot of it you just need the Sims 4 base game, which of course is free and anyone can play. And so typically whenever I do CC builds where I have got such a big CC collection that I've been, collecting over years and years, I like to try and keep it just, strictly CC, but every once in a while, maybe like a little bit of paid DLC will creep in. But it's more so one of them cases of, it might be like one item from one particular DLC, and if you were to download the build and you don't have that one pack that I've used, then like one item is going to be missing. Typically with my CC builds, I'll link you the Google Doc link, so you can go ahead and grab all this custom content, but then also I will list every single paid DLC pack in the description box, but in brackets I'll let you know how many items I've used from that pack. So you can clearly see, say for example, and I don't know if this is the case, but Cottage Living, I might have used 2 items. If you download this build and you don't have that pack, only 2 items is going to be missing. Really hope that makes sense, but either way, besides the point, getting back to the build, as you can see, I'm actually now just pretty much finishing up Monica's bedroom. I had to kind of like freestyle one of the walls because you don't really see the fourth wall because it's more like a filming angle in the TV series, and so in there I ended up placing down, I think, like a wardrobe in the corner alongside with a little like makeup vanity and then also a chest of drawers unit, but I tried to decorate it like the rest of the apartment, if that makes any sense. But now moving on, as you can see, I've now moved on into the last bedroom in this apartment, and this is Rachel's bedroom. So in here, Rachel has quite a particular bed, if I can even call it that. I don't know how to describe it, but it basically looks like a sofa, but then there's a mattress coming out of it. I'll pop a picture of what I was referencing, but it basically has like these floral prints on both the bedding, the bed frame, and then also the pillows as well. And I don't have any CC beds like that. And I did also go on a little bit of a hunt. Like I did try and search Google trying to find Sims custom content that either was a replica of Rachel's bed in the show or something a little bit similar like it. And I was at a loss. I couldn't find anything in the end. And so what I decided to do for Rachel's bed is I got this little like love seat, which the one that I've used is from, I think it's called the Gwendolyn set by Peacemaker, but I used the love seat version and then I merged in a mattress into it. I then got 3 pillows which I sized up a little bit, and then I also got some smaller pink pillows and placed it in front of them. It's not exactly the same as what Rachel's bed looks like, but I mean, I did my best and I just didn't know any other way to decorate this space. But above her bed area, she has this one poster which says Film Noir or Noir. To be honest, I'm not really too sure what that says. I think it's meant to be French, but either way, I could not find this poster, whether it be a replica of it that someone's made and put into the game, or even like a similar poster to it. Like, I went on such a search trying to find this one particular piece of artwork, couldn't find anything like that. And so in the end, I decided to use this one poster, which again, actually it's a paid piece of DLC, but it's from the Cozy Bistro Kit, and I mean, I feel like it gives off the same kind of vibe anyway. But in Rachel's bedroom, we really don't get to see half as much as like what we see at Monica's bedroom in the show. And so a lot of this I based off these two images, because I have this one of Rachel sitting on the bed and then Ross is leaning over her. I based the room off this one, but then also a second one which you can see Ross is walking in through the door, and then Rachel is standing there, and this is an episode where she doesn't want to get changed in front of him. If you've seen the show, hope you know what I'm on about. But I use these two images as kind of like the reference for the bulk of this room. By her bedroom door, there's actually kind of like a little bit of a wall coming out, and so I replicated that. And then on one side there's the wardrobe, and then on the opposite side there's kind of like this little side table. I wasn't able to find any pictures of what is exactly on the table itself from the image of like Ross walking in through the door. There seems to be kind of like a little pot there or something, but in my version I just placed down clutter pieces which I feel like Rachel would have in her bedroom. So I think I ended up placing down some flowers, some like scrunchies, some hair clips, like random little like knickknacks like that. But then on the opposite wall, on the fourth wall, if you want to put it that way, we never see this area of a show because this is where like the TV cameras would be. And so I just tried to decorate it to how I imagine Rachel would have the rest of her room. I placed down a little makeup vanity, which she does kind of have something similar to that in this image over here, but the one that I placed down in the build has kind of like a built-in mirror. I don't know, it's kind of like a vanity table, if you know what I mean, but it's a little bit different. But it's somewhere where Sims can sit down and put their makeup on if they want to. Also place down some shopping bags next to it because of course it is Rachel, she loves shopping and stuff. But then also in the corner I placed down another chest of drawers, and then just basically placed down like a hairbrush, some books, little random knickknacks, little random bits and bobs. But as you can see, I pretty much finished the first apartment, and now I'm coming in doing the floor plan for like the outside of the apartment, kind of like the hallway space. And then in a second I'm going to start making the floor plan for Joey and Chandler's apartment. Now out here, even though it's a little hallway space, I still tried to make this as accurate as what I could possible in the game and try and recreate the hallway space outside of both the individual apartments. However, I wasn't able to get it completely spot on. One reason being, if you ever have seen the TV show Friends and you're familiar with the hallways outside each of the individual apartments, you'll know that both of them basically lead up from a load of different stairs. So you see how I've placed down an elevator? Well, in the TV show, it's not an elevator there, you have to walk up the stairs. However, where I'm building in the game, that just wasn't a thing that I was going to be able to make possible. Like I said, coming into this build, I tried to make this as accurate as I could possible. Like, I was really trying to make it feel like if you wanted to, you could quite literally play out the Friends TV series in the game. And with that, I decided quite early on not to limit myself to one of the stereotypical apartments that we have in San Myshuno, and instead I decided to opt to build these apartments on basically like this penthouse lot. Now, if you're completely unfamiliar, which I'm only mentioning this because sometimes when I build on these particular lots in the game, I get so many people asking me like, how'd you do that then? Because there is some stereotypical apartments and then there's also these penthouse apartments. But pretty much in the San Myshuno world, we've got these like typical apartments that, you know, your Sims can move into. They've got neighbours, some of them are loud, some of them are rowdy, that kind of thing. But in the world there is 3 or potentially even 4 different penthouse lot types, which is pretty much a bog standard lot, you know, like a typical flat square on top of a building, which you could build anything on there. If you wanted to, you could build a horse ranch. If you wanted to, you could build I don't know, a castle. Like, you could literally go to town with it. But I decided to build these apartments on the penthouse lots. That way, when it came around to figure out the floor plan and just basically the whole spacing of the apartments, I wasn't going to be restricted. However, with that, where I'm building on a penthouse lot type, I have to have it. So one of the requirements is to have an elevator. And so instead of having these stairs leading up to both the front doors, yeah, I just decided to use an elevator instead. But I don't feel like it's the worst thing in the world. I just wanted to mention it. And also, whilst we're on the subject, if you are curious on the exact penthouse lot that I'm building on, you can always have a little look in the top left corner of the screen. You can see that it says Fountain View Penthouse. That is the original lot name in the world of San Myshuno. But either way, moving on, as you can see, I've now started coming in and decorating Joey and Chandler's apartment. So I'll find the picture of the floor plan that I was referencing on the screen for kind of like the layout of this one. However, I will say the floor plan which is being shown is kind of inaccurate in terms of the way that I decorated it, because I tried to decorate Joey and Chandler's apartment from like the earlier season. I'm like thinking like season 1, and the thing is, throughout the seasons, the furniture in their apartment seems to change quite a bit. I mean, at one point they buy some recliners, at one point Joey buys like this TV stand unit, like the old 9 yards kind of thing, and I decided to try and recreate it from more so season 1 rather than the later seasons. Over here in the kitchen, as you can see, I decided to go for these kitchen counters, which these are the same ones that I used in Monica's apartment, but I just used them in a different colour swatch. Now, even though, like I said, I tried to decorate this apartment to be in the earlier seasons, when it came around to doing the kitchen clutter, I actually based it off a later episode in like some of the later seasons of the show, which sounds really weird, but pretty much where I was rewatching Friends this week so I could kind of familiarise myself, all the different nooks and crannies, all the different spaces, I noticed that I never really got to see Joey and Chandler's kitchen as much in the earlier episodes, and if I did, their kitchen really wasn't that interesting. And I feel like as you go throughout the seasons, and I mean I could be completely wrong, but I feel like the clutter kind of then starts to build up over time, and so I based it off this one image which is in the later seasons, because if you look in the back left corner, you can see that they've got a yellow sofa, which that is not originally there in the earlier seasons, in like the earlier episodes. It's a red chair, I believe, which you will see I do debate adding the yellow like sofa in this apartment, but then I decided against it and tried to keep it to be the original like little armchair in the corner. But yeah, the original image that I based the kitchen off is in the later seasons, but purely because I was just looking at their kitchen in like the earlier episodes, and it just really weren't as interesting. So I kind of did the same furniture placement as what you see in the earlier seasons, but maybe some clutter which they would have got and developed over time. So I mean, it is a little bit mismatched and not as accurate, but it was more so because I just had some like Chandler and Joey CC that I really wanted to use in this apartment, which you don't actually see until the later episodes, or like sometimes the earlier episodes. One of them things being, you can see over here on kind of like this back wall, I placed down a little TV on a little stand, placed down a plant and then a desk, but then above the desk there is this painting, like a black and white photo, and that is what is originally in the first ever episode where we see Joey and Chandler's apartment. I think it's season 1 episode 3 of memory, but basically that is there, and you can see a picture of Joey and Chandler sitting down in their lounge room. However, in a later episode, in like a later season, Joey goes and buys a TV unit, but then if I want to place down the TV unit, I can't place down that painting, and I have CC of that painting. So do you know what I mean? I was trying to find like a little bit of a middle ground, but yeah, over here in this corner I did debate placing down this yellow sofa, and I think it does actually stay there for a little while, but eventually I end up getting rid of it and replacing it with a armchair. Another 2 things, actually no, 3 things that I'm wanting to mention in this apartment in terms of not it being completely accurate but trying to just give the overall effect of Joey and Chandler's apartment is, one, next to the yellow sofa I've got a dog statue. I believe that doesn't come into this apartment until later on in the series. The second thing is the painting above that statue. That does end up being there, but it's in the later seasons, so again it's kind of like mismatchy. And then the third thing that I placed down into this apartment, which isn't completely accurate to the first couple of episodes in season 1, is I placed down a foosball table. I believe, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think when you first see Joey and Chandler's apartment, there's meant to be a dining room table in that spot, but I think later on in the series, or it might even still be season 1, it breaks or something, and then they get a foosball table. And I just thought it would just be so much more fun to have a foosball table over a dining room table. I mean, in my own gameplay experience, my Sims hardly ever sit at the dining room table, if I'm being honest with you. Like, they always just either stand up and eat it holding their plate, like eating their food, or sometimes if someone's watching telly, they'll go and sit like on the sofa in front of the telly and watch TV with another Sim. And so I just felt like having a foosball table would be, a little bit more fun. But over here, as you can see, I'm actually coming in and decorating kind of like the 4th wall area, which we don't really ever get to see this section of their apartment. Now, something that I did, which I was really happy about, because pretty much this whole space, I was just pretty much imagining what I think it would look like. I placed down, and it might be a little bit hard because it's not currently on the screen, but I'll pop a little picture of the section that I'm talking about. When I was decorating that spot, I was thinking, what would Joey and Chandler have there? Like, realistically, if I'm decorating their apartment as like a film or TV set, what would I place down in their apartment? And so just literally on a whim, I placed down a radio station with a poster on top of it. But it wasn't until I come in and I start decorating the apartment bathroom, which you can see that I'm doing right now, that I actually found a different angle of their apartment, which I hadn't really ever noticed before, and it pretty much looks like what I placed down, and I just guessed it, which it sounds so silly actually just talking about it, but I was really happy with that, because I literally just on a whim, I mean, it's only a radio station, a poster, something really to write home about, but I was just thinking, what would they have in this section? And it wasn't until I moved over and I started decorating their bathroom that I saw a different angle, and I was like, well, hang on, that's pretty much what I've already placed now, so that's great. I don't have to, go in and change anything. But either way, as you can see, I've now moved on and I've started decorating their bathroom. So in here, they have kind of like what's it called? A rubber dinghy, but it's smaller. What is that called? Do you know what I'm on about? It's on the wall, lifeguard thing. If someone's like struggling in the water and you throw it out to them, one of them, can't think of the name of it, but they have one of them in their apartment's bathroom, and so I placed one of them down onto the wall. In a second, you're going to see me place down a painting, which I was purely placing as like a little bit of artwork onto like the walls, just to kind of spruce it up a little bit. But I placed down this one little painting which I just placed down, and it actually has some little individual ducks in it, which I didn't go into the decoration category and pick that out for that particular painting, but it just so happened to have a painting of ducks. And if you've ever seen Friends, you might be familiar with, there is a thing going on where they basically end up getting a duck, and there is multiple pictures that you can find online of a duck in their apartment, and there's loads of little like rubber duckies around it to kind of help the duck feel like it's at home or something. And so I kind of made reference to that once I placed on that painting into the bathroom by placing down some little rubber duckies around. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on into Chandler's bedroom. So in here, I was basing this room off one photo of Chandler sleeping in bed, but then the second, it's not even a photo, it's more of a gif that I was basing this room off. But I'll pop both of them on the screen so you can kind of see what I was looking at when I was decorating this room. But in Chandler's bedroom, he has his bed in front of like a little bookcase thing, and then kind of in the corner he's got almost like this stand that looks like it's got all of his different caps on. So I tried to recreate something similar-ish like that in the game. And then he's got this little like chest of drawers unit, and then on top of the chest of drawers unit he's got this painting which I couldn't find anything similar to it, and so I decided to go with like a little retro style like painting for that instead. But then next to the chest of drawers he appears to have, I think it's meant to be a radiator, and so I tried to do that in this room. But for the other sides of it, I don't believe I've ever actually seen what Chandler's other side of the room looks like. Like, I couldn't recount at any time that I've actually ever seen it in the show. Then also coming around to find images on whether it be Google or Pinterest, I was just kind of struggling. And so this other side of the room, I just tried to make up from the character that I know Chandler in the earlier seasons. I placed down a computer desk because, he works in an office, and so I just thought that was very fitting for him. Also placed down a little computer on top of it, and then next to it I placed down a wardrobe. Even though there is a chest of drawers in his room already, I was more so thinking it's not really enough storage for all your different clothes. So I placed on a wardrobe, and then also a little bookcase in the very corner alongside with an armchair, a mirror, and then also a map of, it looks like a Sims world map or something, but I don't know, I feel like he might have a map in his room. It's quite a smart guy, and so yeah, I just didn't know what else to put on the walls. And I must admit, it was near this point in decorating that I was really starting to struggle in terms of artwork, because I only have a limited amount of CC, but even with CC I still struggle with artwork and, you know, knowing what to put on the walls in all of my builds. And so it was at this point I was really starting to struggle on the artwork department. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on into the last room in this whole entire build, which is Joey's bedroom. So in here, out of the two boys' rooms, Joey's was definitely the harder one to decorate, because again, I just feel like I haven't seen that much of Joey or Chandler's rooms. But in here I just tried to decorate it to how I imagined Joey would decorate his room. I was looking at 2 images that I found on Google, which I'll pop onto the screen and kind of familiarise yourself with them, but for the most part a lot of it I just kind of, you know, just guess. Like, I just did a little bit of guesswork. I placed down a wardrobe in one corner alongside with like a little side table. I placed down a tall standing mirror because I thought that's where Joey could like practice his acting or something. And then on the 4th wall, which we don't see, I decided to go out on a whim, and where I was struggling with artwork, decided to place down some windows. But other than that, I'm pretty much going to go around his bedroom, finish it off, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or you just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.